Hey everybody, welcome to Sunshine and Whiskey. I'm your host, Lana Durrett. We're going to stir up life topics and explore the messiness and the craziness of life. This is information for the inquisitive. I myself get lost in information and curious about all things. I spend a ton of time reading, listening to podcasts, and having purposeful conversations. The more perception I receive, the more I want to share with people and dive into the next new quest. The power of each of us, our accomplishments, passions, unique stories, and authentic voices, we all have so much to address and to tear into. And that's what I intend to do here. I want to talk to high vibe humans, share space to be transparent and inquisitive, share laughs, and explore life. I'm not an expert or a professional, and my purpose is to give voice and have genuine conversations concerning business strategies, relationships, personal development, intimacy, intuition, or simply your favorite damn book. Whatever it is, let's just unpack it and explore it. Let's build a bridge to bring energy and souls together by sharing sunny and spicy conversations. Welcome to Sunshine and Whiskey. Hi, everybody. Welcome, Sunshines, to another episode of Sunshine and Whiskey, the podcast where we uncork the stories behind not only your business, but also your life travels along the way. I'm your host, Lana Durrett, and today I have a special treat for you. From Smith, Alberta, on this Canada Day long weekend, I have for you a friend of mine. Her name is Sheila Willis, and she is a accidental entrepreneur that has studied the Northern history of Alberta since about 2014. And she's done some incredible things along the way, community building, recognitions for all sorts of things within Alberta and within our province. She has a story to tell us and a mission that she is on in order to get her app out into Alberta, which is a phenomenal thing that we're going to talk about in the podcast. So Sheila is definitely a dash of sunshine with a splash of whiskey. So grab your favorite glass, fill it to the brim, and get ready to embark on a soul-stirring adventure with us. Sheila is not a stranger to pushing boundaries or embracing the unknown, and I can't wait to share this conversation with you guys. So let's jump in and let's welcome Sheila to the show. Hi, Sheila. Welcome.
Good morning.
How are you this morning? We're going to try this again. We had a little bit of a struggle. So yeah, we talked the weather. Like we said, we are all getting some rain, and I know you guys had tons of fires out there, and hopefully now this rain has kind of caught up and allowed everybody to start getting home and enjoying their days. What brought what were you up to this morning?
Making apple crisp. That's my housewife in the bush persona. That's one of the hats I wear.
Yeah, tell me a bit about that. So every time I meet you, you put on this this persona about this being a bushwife from Smith, Alberta. So
before I got involved in all of these historical projects, that's exactly what I was. I was raising 3 boys, married for 25 years, but very much lived the rural life. So to stumble upon heritage tourism and build an app. I didn't even know what an app was before I built one, by the way. It was like, I'd like to see this on my phone. Oh, you need an app? Oh, is that what it's called? Like, I had no clue. So there's the accidental entrepreneur persona.
right.
So I still very much enjoy the rural life. My best place is in the bush, quite frankly, or at my keyboard. Those are my 2 options for enjoyment. Isn't that funny?
It is.
But I like meeting people, why I'm here.
It is. So how'd you get to Smith, Alberta? That's not where you're originally from, you said?
No, I grew up in Salmon Arm, BC before it was a tourism town, so very much a small town. I lived in a big city, and my friend actually brought me out here as a tourist. And I looked around and I thought, I always wanted to live in a small town again. I think this is going to be it. So I went from this major organizational job, I'll say, which kind of allowed me to build the app later, to becoming a bartender, just so I could live in a small town again.
Yeah,
Talk
but
about
that's
love
one.
of rural Alberta,
You know what? I've bartended. It's one of my favorite jobs too.
Yeah,
You're kind of, I mean, there are times when you're stuck behind the wood and you wish you could get on the other side of it and run. But
yeah.
you know what? For the majority of it, probably one of my favorite jobs.
It's meeting people, right?
Yeah, it
That's
is.
what I enjoy. So,
It is. So Smith, Alberta brought you to the love of being out in nature and
mhm.
bartending, and it also introduced you to your husband of 25 years.
Yeah. So he came in one afternoon. This is so funny. And he ordered a ginger ale. And I said, "Oh, do you want anything in it?" And he said, "No, I don't drink." I said, "Well, that's a good thing. The world would be a better place if more people didn't." And I think that was the start of that relationship.
Good for
not
you
not
guys.
exactly your classic words.
Well, that's all right. 25 years later, you have three boys, and you had mentioned that none of those boys are yours naturally, but you
No,
raised them. And yeah, wow. And are they all still around Smith, or are they all scattered out now?
one's in Athabasca. So Theo has a wife and two children, a boy and a girl now. So I have grandkids. Theo's the middle child. Um, Justin, the oldest, has two daughters with his wife here, and they live in Smith. And then the youngest is Zach, who's unattached, but he lives in Smith as well. So Justin is my husband's son from his first marriage, who came to live with us after we got together. And then Zach and Theo are my best friend's grandchildren who had a rough start to life, so we took them in and raised them.
Oh, how lucky are they to
Yeah,
be with you?
yeah,
And
yeah.
all the stuff on that acreage and apple crisp.
And whatever else I choose to bake at
That's
the day given time.
yeah. Sheila,
So,
let's talk about some of these initiatives that you had going on. I guess let's go back to the historian part of it and what caught your eye and how did you even head down? You're not a historian by education, so I had asked you
yeah,
that. I thought maybe that you had gone to school for a librarian, historian, and you said
no,
no, you actually just came across it and really enjoyed doing it.
I did. And it actually started because my husband's dad, my father-in-law, Sonny, who I called the old coot, we actually made him a quad trailer that said the old coot on the back. But anyways, that's a different story. Um, he would talk about his family came to the Smith Hondu area in 1921, and my mother-in-law's family came in 1926. So they were some of the original settlers in this area. And Sonny would talk about things like the Alaska Highway. He remembers the U.S. Army soldiers. There was no bridge in Smith then. And they would be backed up for 3 or 4 city blocks trying to get across the river. But that was part of the building of the Alaska Highway. They were taking all that equipment through. So the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers actually built the bridge in Smith. And also in World War II, we had German prisoners of war out at Fawcett Lake, which is 20 kilometers from Smith. But steamboats used to come through here and the fur traders. The thing about our area is that we're located right on the junction of the Lesser Slave and Athabasca rivers. Now, the Lesser Slave River is the only outlet out of Lesser Slave Lake. I don't know if you've ever been to that lake, but it's 100 kilometers long. And
I
it
used
was
to live there. I used to live in High
okay.
Prairie. Mm-hmm.
So that was the main fur trading route. You didn't go anywhere northwest of here. You couldn't go to Peace River, Grand Prairie, Dawson Creek, Fort Vermilion unless you went a mile from my house. All of the fur traders went that way. So, and even before that, being that the lesser slave is the only outlet, when the indigenous people were using the waters for the highways, you can bet your bottom dollar for thousands and thousands of years you've got that history. So, between the steamboats and Mirror Landing being the original steamboat town and people blowing up the river and German POWs, just like there's a whole conglomerate of history here. And I got to thinking, once I learned more about it, how can I turn that heritage tourism into economic development for my small little town that has one store, one gas station, one restaurant, and a post office and a school?
And so, what was your first step towards that?
I created Alberta's first official geocaching tour in 2014. And I did it in like 4 months, I think. So I wrote 100 historical short stories. We planted 100 geocaches in and around the region and got some funding from the MD, Town of Athabasca, that sort of thing, MD of Lesser Slave River, and put it out there. And since then, I think I brought over 700 people into Smith, whether they stay a day, a week, come back. Yeah. So I'd say it was successful. Still is.
So how do people know about that? Like, how do they know about this geocache? Or I guess back then, I don't know if you still do it, but how did
Back
they?
then, it was a lot of Facebook and social media advertising. There's geocaching groups all over, right? So
Sure.
it's no longer an official tour, but the caches are still, some of the caches are still out there. I'm weaning it down as we go along. And I'm hoping, my goal is to make really unique caches to bring people back in. So I have some ideas. I'm not going to share them because then it wrecks the surprise.
That's right. Yeah.
But
So go ahead. Yep.
geocaching also has these things called trackables. They're little numbers and you put them on a figurine or whatever. So, like for instance, Captain Barber, who I look up a lot, by the way, when I'm thinking, he was the guy that homesteaded Mirror Landing and was the steamboat captain. He ran Northern Transportation Company. He died in Duluth, Minnesota. So I want to make one of these trackables and stick it somewhere in Alberta. And then the instructions are, he's trying to make it back to Duluth, and this is why. So geocachers just pick him up and take him from cache to cache to cache until he gets there.
That would be so much. That'd be so fun. Yes.
So yeah, I got to get that done too. Probably my winter project, one of them.
You've got so many things on the go. Tell me a few of them. Give me a few of. I've had conversations with you, and honestly, Sheila, I can't keep up with the amount of things that you've got going on some days. Give me some key highlights of some of the initiatives that you're working on right now.
Okay, I'm going to show you my book. We'll start there. We'll save the big one for last, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is my book. I'm never very good at this.
Yeah, and so for the listeners on that don't have the video right now, Sheila's showing us one of the books that she's written, and I will have all the key things on the show notes and a link to where you can get Sheila's book as well as other items that she has. But Sheila, go ahead and tell us about that book.
Okay, this book is called Alberta History, Lesser Slave Lake Region, and it's News Reviews Volume 1. So from 1880 to 1896, I went into only one newspaper, and that being the Edmonton Bulletin, which, by the way, for your listeners that like to do some of this research, if you search Peel Prairie Provinces, it's the University of Alberta, and they have an online resource for all or some of the older newspaper, a lot of older newspapers, where you can just go search by topic and poof, up it comes. So I searched for Lesser Slave Lake. So it would be whether it be the lake, the post, the river, whatever. I took all of those articles and transcribed them. And then I went through them and I indexed all the pertinent information. So for families looking for their history, they may find their ancestor in this book easily. And then I put them into themes. So in this book, notice it's volume 1. There's probably going to be 5 volumes. In this book, it's the fur trade, settlement, indigenous impacts, and I can't even remember the last one. Travel, because that's right when they were going from dog teams to steamboats.
Oh.
And they were blowing up the river to make the steamboats come up them, that sort of thing. So the next one will be only 2 years because it's going to be as big as this one. And it will be 97, 98. And that's something I forgot to mention about area history. The Klondike Gold Rush. This was one of the backdoor routes.
Huh. So how long did it take you to write that book? How long did it, or to like kind of get it all put together and out to the world? About 8 months. And so what was your key thought to starting a book? Like why was that your first step onto this historian?
Well, actually, it's one of my later steps. But when I'm researching, and I do a lot of it, these newspaper articles have so many little hidden bits of information in them. And the idea was if I could share that through the index or even just to get people interested. I've got a lot of comments like, I had no idea that happened here, for people that have read the book. Like, that was enlightening, right?
What are some key things that you think are in that? Like, now that you're mentioning that, what are a couple of the surprises that you had the most in writing that book?
That the survey parties came through, I believe it was either 1893 or 1896, that they were surveying land up here already for the Dominion of Canada, the Canadian government, but Treaty 8 wasn't signed until 1899. I just found that kind of presumptuous.
Yeah.
So that was one of my ones. There's actually a story in here, and it was submitted to the Edmonton Bulletin by the Hudson's Bay Factor, that's like a general manager. And it said that there was a wolf that had come into Lesser Slave Lake Post, which, by the way, is Gerard, Capuino, Sucker Creek First Nation area now. And the wolf was very fat, but very aggressive, so they killed it. And for whatever reason, they skinned it, and a live black snake came out of it between, if I remember right, between its hide and its belly. And then they found 3 more dogs that were also fat and loopy, and they had garter snakes in them. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, but I mean, that's the Hudson's Bay guy, right? You wouldn't think he'd just be spreading rumors.
No.
Yeah. Huh. Like weird little things.
Yeah, exactly. So that whole book, what general area does it involve, from where to where?
Well, even though the search was done for Lesser Slave Lake, history, especially in Northern Alberta and Northwestern Alberta, it was so interconnected. So it's going to include Athabasca. It has some references to St. Albert because that was a trail. Peace River, Fort Dunvegan, Fort Vermilion, all of that has references in this book.
Have you traveled it? I know recently you said you have done quite a bit of miles. Have you done a lot of traveling yourself throughout that to capture a lot of this history of Alberta, or is it mostly online that
I research more online. I'm not sure how to describe this. I'm a touch the land person. Like, I want to feel the land. So I have been to Fort Vermilion, and I loved it there, by the way. Because I could go stand on the Peace River, and knowing what I know, I can see that all happening in front of me. Does that kind of make sense, what I'm trying to convey? Yeah. And while where Treaty 8 was signed is more or less private property, and I know where it is, I won't divulge that. But the person whose property that is invited me to go there, so I actually got to lay down and touch the ground where Treaty 8 was signed. And some people might think, what a loopy broad, but for me, that's like, oh, wow. Right?
It's your jam. It's your jam. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So what came after the book? What was your next step
the book was actually last year, I think, or maybe the year before. I'm going to throw this in here. I don't even know if you know this. I have a brain injury. You can feel a dent in my head.
You know, we talked about it before, but tell us that. Let me know the story here.
I won't get into the whole story, but basically I got whacked in the head with a baseball bat at a house party. Somebody thought I was someone else. And it wasn't until probably about a dozen years ago that I was diagnosed with post-concussive syndrome. So I have a nap every single day that I possibly can, because it's a brain reset for me. So usually between 11 and 1, you're not going to reach me. And but the big thing I lost was time. I don't remember dates very well. I don't remember when I did things. It's not how long ago I did it. It's more for me, what season did I do it in? I can tell you I wrote this book in the winter. It got published in the winter. Winter of what year? I don't know. Like,
Wow. I
does
mean,
it really matter? Like,
yeah. So
till
besides naps and stuff, I mean, you must have had a lot more.
the year that I was diagnosed was an interesting year. So they treated me for migraines for years because all of these headaches, right?
Mm,
And I actually went to my doctor one time and said, I think I've got Alzheimer's. Like, I things are not right in my world, right? And he gave me the little test and he said, oh, no, you used the test, just slow down. And I'm thinking, it's not right. So the year that I was diagnosed, I asked to go see a neurologist because I started getting numb in my face and I have this pain in my ear, which I took one of my kids to see an ear specialist and he looked in my ear and he said, I have varicose veins. So I need to back up. I don't know exactly when I got this head injury because I can't remember time, but I never went to the doctor. I was young and invincible. I just laid on the couch till I woke up, basically. So when I finally managed to see a doctor, it was right when post-concussive syndrome was being more well known in the hockey world. And he said, you have every classic symptom. So that year, I couldn't add, literally, I couldn't add 2 plus 2 without a calendar or calculator. I'd go to Edmonton to shop. My husband's a carpenter, to go pick up his supplies. And it got to the point if I saw something that wasn't on my list, that was on the shelf, I had to phone him and say, did I already buy this for you? Because I have no recollection of it. It's gone. So then they put me on medicine, which cured it. And I don't have to take it all the time now. But when my symptoms are coming on, I just go right back onto the medicine. And a lot of it has to do with sleep. I could sleep 12 hours a day, but if I don't get a good sleep, it doesn't do me a lick of good. So the person from the brain injury, Blue Heron, told me, it's unusual that your symptoms change, but what are your triggers? And I said, weather and MSG. She said, weather, nailed it. It was a year that there were storm after storm after storm. So normally a storm will throw me sometimes into really bad shape. And I was never recovering from the last one before the next one hit. So my brain capabilities just kept going down and down and down. So until I could like nail myself down into those deep, hard sleeps, things weren't going to get better.
and so they have got better now. Like it's impressive that you do the work that you do, which is a lot of memory, a lot of reading, a lot of right. Yeah. So then,
Well, and that's a tricky part because I can tell you what my phone number was when I was 17. Like
right.
458 1978. Like that's the number, right? But for a calendar or to schedule things, it's like
Yeah, a little more difficult.
it's weird how the brain works. It'll latch onto one like a steel trap, and the other one floats away like a butterfly. Like so
It's true.
I'm
So
blessed that I recognize what's what.
yeah, no, that's right.
And so therefore I can compensate for it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And my friend one time said, we were talking about this injury, and I said, I wonder, something in respect to all of my projects, I wonder what it would be like if I didn't have the injury. And she said, have you ever thought that you can do it because you have the injury? She could be perfectly right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We don't know. We don't know enough about brains.
That's right.
So yeah.
No need to sit in it either. It is.
Yeah.
You're doing so well at what you do that, yeah, why question it?
Yeah, it is what it is. Carry on.
That's right. What are some of the community things that you've done? You've had a lot of initiatives where you're working with out external.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that. I know a few months ago you and I had a chance to catch up and you had a few things on the go. Are those things still in play?
Some are and some aren't.
Yeah,
and some are under change. So I'm working right now. Actually, I'm going to go there this afternoon to Bannock and Bed Inn up at Sucker Creek First Nation. And she's working on some heritage initiatives for her tourism opportunities. We'll say that. And she's having an open house today, so that's going to be fun. There's a few other things that are on hold, and I've done several presentations since then, I think. So it was interesting because my niece great niece attends elementary school grade 4 in Vauxhall, Alberta. So I did a Zoom presentation to a grade 4 class on heritage and tourism. And that was fun. You want to know the best part of it? There's this young man there, and he's Kenai. So he got up and said that. And I said, "Oh, I said, Oki. Is that how I say hello to you in your language?" And you should have seen the look on the kid's face. And his mother told my my other niece that really made that kid's day. So I think, just being able to do some of that stuff through the stuff that is cool for the next generation.
It is. You were at a speaking event too the other day. I bet that kid's face just lit up. It's not very often they're able to have somebody, speak.
Well, and especially since he's from a southern tribe and I'm from Northern Alberta. Exactly. So then I said, okay, if you come to Northern Alberta, you're going to want to say Tanse. So switched it, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So that was
teaching each other at school.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah. So, you also had another speaking event a couple of weeks ago that you had. What was that one regarding? You had it videoed and you weren't sure if it was going to go live or not, but it was to do with it was
Truth and Reconciliation.
And where was that at?
That was at the United Church in Athabasca. I was invited. And so when I was invited to speak as an ally, I phoned a friend of mine who's from Northern Alberta, but not in Athabasca, and asked her what she thought about me doing that presentation, and consulted with her in order to make sure it was the best job that I could do. So I've shared that video link privately.
Yeah.
And I won't put it on social media because I don't think people can message me, email me, and I'll give them the link. But just because of the subject matter and the wide range of knowledge and different degrees of knowledge that people have, I would rather just share it with people who think that can use it in their realm of circle of influence. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Not everything's meant for the whole world to see. Some things are more intimate for conversation.
Very well received, and I've had some excellent comments on it. So that in combination with a few other things going on together, I think have supplied people that were looking with some really great information.
You recently, that was, I want to say earlier this spring, I mean, you have numerous awards and recognitions, Sheila. Just reading a few: the Heritage Awareness Award in 2019, a Marketing Award for Growing Rural Tourism in 2019. But recently you were awarded a Queen's Medal. Let's talk about some of these, because you know what? I do believe you have done some phenomenal things, and this is just proof in the pudding of showing some of the community lifts that you have done. So share some of these achievements with us, and especially tell me about receiving that Queen's Medal.
So my MLA, former MLA, Pat Rain, nominated me for that. And it was basically based on my volunteerism and the work that I've done in tourism. So that was really cool. I should have brought it up here. I could have went like that on the screen. So I think there was 20 of us that got the medal here in Slave Lake. But that was a real good feel-good moment. And especially since the Queen passed away in between being nominated and being awarded, right? So, yeah.
Wow.
But, having those recognitions is just, I startle myself even when I stop to think about them, because I'm so busy doing, I'm not looking at, it's kind of like running along with a sandwich in your hand and never taking a bite, right? When you're hungry.
No.
So, went up and met a lot of people. So that was really cool. And before that one, I'm just going to whap them out there. So all of these are essentially based on the app I built.
Yeah.
Outstanding Achievement for Heritage Awareness was presented to me. That's an Alberta Government Award by a previous division called Alberta Historical Resources Foundation. And funny story, my municipality, the MD of Lesser Slave River, nominated me for that. And I think it was a 96-page nomination. It was like when they took it in, they went, "It's a book," right?
Wow.
So, and I'm just going to sidetrack here. The lady that did the work, she's since retired. We went picking blueberries one time together, and I was picking blueberries with a vacuum cleaner. You can ask me about that. But
You're sucking blueberries.
Another friend of mine, when she found out, when I told her I had been nominated, she said, it's great to be nominated, but don't expect to get it, because generally you have to have like years of experience in the field before they'll give you that award. So it came as a real shock to get that award. And I should have brought some things up. So today when I go to Sucker Creek for Charmaine's meet and greet, which is really based on that historical tourism we're going to be doing, I'm going to be wearing a pair of moccasins that I got when I received the Outstanding Achievement Award.
Okay.
And my promise at that time was to tell history in the most well-rounded, truthful way that I could. And every time I did a live presentation, I would be wearing those moccasins. So today just seems like one of those fits, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But that Outstanding Achievement Award, plus I'm going to tell you about the marketing award because this is hilarious. And then I'll tell you about the app. Let's put this in order. Okay. So late 2018 is when I got the Heritage Award. And then in February of 2019 was the last Growing Rural Tourism Conference. So I didn't think I was eligible for any of their award categories, but I was going to be a breakout speaker. And Chuck, that works at the Camrose Exhibition Center, Chuck's just an amazing guy. Haven't seen him since 2019. But I went in and he said, "Hey, Sheila, would you mind if we switched your timing and stuff?" And no, that's fine. Whatever you need. And he said, "Okay, then we're going to put you on the main stage." I went, "What?" So I went from being a breakout speaker with an expected 20 to 30 people in the room to going up on the stage and presenting to 300, rough guess.
How was that?
It was like, oh my gosh. And we both know Ian Hill, amazing fellow. And I think Ian Hill may have presented to that conference. I can't remember who this person was or what they look like. But when I come off the stage, they said, "You did an excellent job." And I'm thinking, well, that's good, because I had no idea what I was doing. Wing it.
Great.
So that was cool. And I got a lot of questions and a lot of contacts, and got a couple of towns that put their stuff up on the app because of that. And so then that night we're sitting there at the Gala Awards, and they're going through, and, everybody's doing a dynamite job, have done a dynamite job, and have gotten awarded. And I was talking to somebody like about who had just received an award, and they had to call me 2 or 3 times because I wasn't really paying attention.
And it was you.
And it was me.
Oh, that's at the marketing award? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's the marketing award, Growing Rural Tourism. And so then I'm like all flabbergasted and woo, right? So I go running up the stage and I fell up the stairs.
Oh, no. Aww.
Oh, it was funny. But
We all gonna have one of those moments, don't we?
Yeah, but I just take all that stuff in stride. At least people remember the moment, right?
There we go. You were the center of attention. Yeah, and it always I swear to God, it has to happen to everybody at least once, whether it's a stair or walking down the sidewalk, or you do a quick.
Yeah, any publicity is good publicity, I guess.
Yeah. Let's talk about your star. Let's talk about the star of this show, that app. Okay, so let's start with The website was History Check. You rebranded it to Traveling on Alberta. Okay, so the app is called Traveling on Alberta right now.
Right.
So how can you?
No.
Yeah.
So, we were really hacked, like seriously hacked, and our websites were wrecked. So I decided to rebrand to Traveling on Alberta Edition. There's a hint in that based on the edition from History Check. So we're still in between that. So we're marketing as get your ing on in Alberta. What's your Alberta ing thing? Ing. Camping, fishing, hunting, hiking. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
But to download the app, it's still downloaded as History Check.
Okay. All right.
For the moment.
And what is this app? Yeah. What?
The easiest way to find the app is to go on to ingon.ca. So ingon.ca. And you're going to have a warning there right now because in the midst of our upgrading, we also need to get coding so newer Google devices can download because we've passed that window. They changed something, so now we got to do work on that. So hopefully within a month. But what does the app do? Why is this thing so special?
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. So basically, we place attractions, services, historical points of interest, or historical stories by GPS coordinates. And those will either call a point of interest or a site listing. So you've got this big map of Alberta, and it's separated by 600 communities. So I can take this app and I can do a keyword search. So if I search museum, it's going to give me a list or a map, and we're going to focus on the map, a map of all of the museums in Alberta and my location. So I can go be bopping around and visit every museum should I choose to. The other, I would call that a museum tour. You can also do big icon tours. Same thing. Highway heritage signs tour. Royal Canadian Legions. I think we've got them all on there. And
my family would love that.
Golf courses. We're just kind of taking segments and trying to work our way through them. But all of the community information, place name history, sorry. So I have a little, if you wanted to find out, I don't know, if you wanted to find out Smith history, then why it's named what it is, you'd search Smith CIH, Community Information History. Because if you search CIH, you're going to crash the party. It'll crash the app. There's that much information in it.
Oh, wow. So you can go to pretty much any. Now, is this across Alberta, Sheila, or is this Northern Alberta for this app?
No, this is across Alberta.
Wow.
This for the entire province. So ask your question.
When you finish that up. When you guys.
Okay. So that's one aspect of the app, and those are, I'll call them keyword searches. So when you open up any of these site listings, you're going to get a picture or up to 3. If you click the read more button, you can get up to, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 words, or maybe just a short blurb about that place. But if it's a business or an attraction, you're going to have their phone number, click, you dial their number, website, click, you're in their website. But then there's one more feature on here that you're not going to get elsewhere. And that is if you click the for more information button, it's going to give you a list of local links. So I'll use Grand Prairie as an example. First things are going to be that business's website and social media handles. And then it's going to give you the Facebook and website for the city of Grand Prairie, the county of Grand Prairie Regional Tourism, Mighty Peace Tourism, and Discover the Peace Country Tourism.
Very cool.
Like, I mean, if you're there and you like in Slave Lake, it's the Slave Lake Tourism website, social media, Town of Slave Lake, MD of Lesser Slave River. But then our local paper, the Lakeside Leader, has a community calendar that's the best kept calendar in the district. So we also have that link. So if I'm in Slave Lake and I want to find out about anything, I can choose any of those websites or hit that calendar. Boom, you're there for more information. You didn't have to look for it. It's right in front of you.
How do people know about this right now, Sheila? How are you getting this message out about this app?
Mostly through my Facebook page, which
What's your
is
page?
at History Check, and it'll come up traveling on History Check app.
And are you on
Or in
any of
tourism.
the Canadian or the Alberta sites where if I was to link on to Alberta Travel or Canada History or anything like that, can I find you on there yet?
Unfortunately, no.
Let's
Not
talk
for a
about some of the struggles that you're having with this app. If you are ready to explode this app, what do you need?
right now, finances. So, and the reason for that is I'm the graphic designer, I'm the social media planner, I'm the data entry person, I'm the salesperson, I'm the accountant and administrator. You see how that could be broken out into about 20 different jobs. Yeah.
So if
So,
you're looking after the app, financially wise,
yeah.
besides income, it also sounds like you need almost some support on
Yeah.
some resources as well, like maybe the marketing side, and maybe, like you said, getting out and doing some sales with it and
Yeah.
items like that.
So, and back to your question about Travel Alberta, it was a little startling to me. Through their own set of guidelines, they're not allowed to support apps, like in the beginning. So in the initial website building way back in 2015-16, somewhere right in there, we did get some funding from Travel Alberta to build a website, but that's not the app, right? The app is the key thing going on here. Nobody else has something like that. It's totally unique. I mean, I probably had 50 people tell me that's the best travel app ever, just for reference. There, see, I just fluffed that off. That's amazing. But now the regulations are that you need to have an ATIS file, which is an Alberta Travel Information Systems file. So if you went to Travel Alberta and you went into things to do and you found a campground, that's an ATIS file. They had to load that up as an ATIS file to be listed. I can't do that. I found several walking tours that are run by another app, and I'm not going to say who it is, but I think it's an exceptional app too. So I tried to put up, I believe it was the museum tour and the Big Icon tour as a self-guided tour on using the app, and that was rejected. So I can't have an ATIS file, therefore I don't qualify for any Travel Alberta funding.
Okay, so why was the ATIS file rejected though, or you don't know?
Because it just doesn't fit their parameters, apparently.
Okay, so are you not even, so why haven't they offered to put you at least on the Travel Alberta websites or Canadian history websites? Have you ever asked, or I guess reached out to them in regards to any of that? So if we couldn't get you financial help for the app, if they're not willing to do that, are they willing to do some of the advertising for you and the reach across Alberta for you with all the work that you've done in putting into this history app?
Not to the best of my knowledge from the last time I checked.
Okay. So
Now, having said that, I'm going to back up because they have done, it's not that they've been 100% unsupportive. I don't want to give anybody that impression. And part of the problem is they have certain rules and guidelines that they need to follow. Okay.
Sure.
But so when I expanded Alberta wide in 2019, we did my hard launch at the Provincial Archives of Alberta, and they kindly gave us a room. So we did the ceremony thingamajigger, and then Travel Alberta joined in to welcome it to Alberta Live. Like we did a live video, Facebook video. So, and then just a series of successive people throughout the day. So it's not like they haven't stepped out here and there, but I would, in my opinion, I would think there would be more involvement, and I don't understand why there isn't, but
yeah. But that's what we want to do today. We want to get you out there. We want to get this app known out there. I mean, anybody that can support you on this app that maybe has a few volunteer hours or wants to connect with you, Sheila, would you be acceptance to that?
Oh, yeah.
If can help you out in any way, you know?
Absolutely. And I'll say this right off the top. This app's business plan, we'll call it, or marketing plan, is not exactly normal because it's all meant to be based on a collaborative effort. That it right off the get-go. So for instance, there's a lot of museums this year that are putting out posters for us. Where we have our download link on other people's website. We've recently partnered with Windspeaker Radio Network and CFWE. So here's one of those weird things the app can do, and this is why it's so inclusive. If you wanted to play Radio Bingo, download the app, search Radio Bingo, and all of their card suppliers will show up. You'll have a map of where to buy a card. So that's kind of cool. So they're advertising us 3 times a day. So any of that advertising, sharing a Facebook post, I mean, if you can think of a dynamite media release, all of those things that just take a little bit off the plate to keep driving it forward. So on this app, being a social enterprise, for lack of a better term, we will list every single business for free. It's the keywords that will eventually make us self-sustainable, and they're very inexpensive. I don't want to make this a sales pitch, but
but a good cross partnership, right? Because if there's a business in a local community and you're willing to get this app to show the history around that town, as well as bring people to the town, you know, they could be displaying your app on their website, or, you know, it's that cross relation, it's that networking, you know, that give and take. So, I mean, the more we get your word out there and the more people are willing to do their keywords within your app, that's, you know.
My long-term vision of this, because I've had this happen to me. I was in Edmonton in the middle of winter and I had a low tire. Do you know how I looked, wondering if I was going to have to call a tow truck? I went to 6 places before I found air for my tires. That's a keyword, air for tires.
Right. Yeah.
So,
you know, speaking of that, I seen that you did something during COVID. Before we wrap up this whole conversation, but during COVID, I seen that you really reached out for the truck drivers. So our kings of the highway were having issues, of course, being able to find certain things. Let's jump into that for a few minutes before we.
Okay. So the keywords are king on this app, in my opinion, because we can do so much with it. So when COVID very first hit and everything went boom, it's all shut down. I was hearing about truckers or couriers, people that were necessary services. They couldn't find a bathroom. Like all of a sudden these places are shut down where they normally stop and go pee. Like, let's get down to the basics. There were women going behind buildings and hoping nobody saw them. So I got a couple of volunteers. There's that volunteerism again. And they started phoning. So every time they would get a gas station or other service that had an open bathroom for truckers, we would make sure they were on the app and just put in the keyword OPWA, open washroom, OPWA. So the truckers could just search OPWA. They see their location and they can see where the next open bathroom is.
Brilliant.
That's how easy that is. Yeah. And
that's
it's, you know, when it comes right down to a business being able to say, like Radio Bingo, it's telling them that they're selling bingo cards. That's one little product within a store. What about fireworks or hunting license or bait or
fishing licenses?
Or if I want, let's say I'm craving Mexican food. Okay, that's my closest place to go get it.
Yeah.
Like to instantaneously roll out the red carpet for Alberta travelers and visitors.
If there's one thing that you could ask for right now, Sheila, what is it? What can we support you on?
Help me get the word out, because the more people that know about it and the more downloads that we have, the better it's going to be for advertisers. It's going to drive us into self-sustainability. That's flat out and simple. And
so
the more,
in the keynotes on here, I'll put the instructions on how to specifically download your app and get to your website. And hopefully we can reach out to a few people who are wanting to jump on board, especially this Canada Day long weekend. I couldn't think of a better time to be able to talk to you and hopefully get this podcast launched and get it out there for everybody for Alberta.
Can I add one more thing?
Of course you can. You betcha.
Okay. So the other way to support the app, because there are a lot of businesses, you've got oil companies or, I don't know, television networks or whatever, things that are not really tourism orientated businesses. We have this thing called a link and logo advertisement. So things like the place name histories, we don't have a link to go in a certain spot and a logo. They can buy that for $100 advertising sponsorship to really help us climb, become self-sustainable, and it's an annual fee. So it just keeps on supporting, and they get ads for it, advertising for it.
Did you send that to me? Did you send me that information?
I will.
Yeah.
It's on ingon.ca.
Okay.
If you look under link and logo, like one of the tabs, that's where it's at. And there's pictures of what it explains what that is.
So good. So good. The stuff you're doing is fantastic. And let that light keep shining, because we'll get you there. I have 3 questions I want to ask you at the end of every podcast that I do. It just kind of wraps up the show, gets me to have a little bit of fun with you. I call it a 3-shot nightcap. A little insight from Sunshine and Whiskey. And being that it's Canada Day long weekend, I thought we'll keep it in spirit of that. So what's your favorite food to eat that you take as a Canadian food?
Bannock.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. You live in the best area to get the best bannock.
Yes, I do.
So good. That's one thing I miss from being out there. I mean, we have a lot of good bannock out here, but I have to go finding it. You have to head out towards that Onion Lake, I don't have as many resources that I know around here anymore like I did when I was in High Prairie. So lucky. Where's your favorite place as a historian and a travel person? Where's your favorite place to travel right now? Is it your backyard, or do you have a favorite place that you like to go in Canada, even in Alberta?
They're both Albertan. And can I say 3?
Sure, you can.
Okay. Fort Chipewyan, you have to fly there. That was an amazing trip. I just loved it there. And then Fort Vermilion, we already talked about that. And those were both, those are the 2 oldest European settlements in Alberta, by the way, what's now Alberta. And then on my bucket list, I have more on my bucket list, but one that's been there for a while, Zama City.
Zama City. And what's the curiosity there? Why do you want to go there?
I don't know how long you have to go on a gravel road, but I like remote. and Lisa Wardley, I'm not sure she still is. She used to be the reeve for Mackenzie County, may still be, but she said if you can get to high level, we'll get you to Zama City. But they have bison or buffalo that roam through the town. Like, she posts pictures of them eating out of her flower beds. And they have statues in town of bison. And the real herd bull actually had a fight with the statue one time, and bull won, statue 0. We'll say that.
Oh, well, maybe someday you're going to get there.
I will sooner or later. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And how about a favorite artist or a Canadian song that you like to sing? That's a tougher one. I had to actually think about that.
Yeah.
Or even just one that you like to sing. What's one of your favorite songs, Sheila?
Well, if you would have stopped at artist, I would have said Alex Janvier, but you had to say song. I like George Canyon. And I can't remember what he sings until I hear things. I don't know titles.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Now it'll be in your head and you'll be listening to it after.
Yeah, now I'm going to have to go search them. That's the song I was thinking of. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So besides you've got company coming in for a Canada Day long weekend, anything else you got going on for the weekend?
Other than going up to Bannock in bed and enjoying myself for the evening and picking wild strawberries so I can get enough to make jam. That's my weekend.
Sounds like a perfect way to spend Canada Day weekend.
Yeah, you betcha.
I want to thank you very much for joining me today. And the work that you do, Sheila, and the person that you are shows you're humble, you're dedicated, you're funny. I mean, you got Alberta standing on their tiptoes, and you're doing some fabulous things to get Alberta's history out there. And I really, really hope that we can give back to you, and that I have a wee little podcast, but hopefully we can get some reach out of that, and we'll share the heck out of it, and maybe even Travel Alberta will see this and reach out to us, and maybe they will help us get your word out and get this app going. So I appreciate, and on behalf of all of Alberta, we appreciate you, and thank you for taking our history and trying to keep that alive and showing it out to everybody else out there in the world.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else you'd like to say before I say goodbye to our listeners?
I better not, because I can talk everybody's ear off. I'll just be quiet.
Well, you know what? Everybody can reach out to you. They can give you, you are the friendliest people, one of the friendliest persons I know. And I'm sure if anybody wants to DM you or find you on LinkedIn or anything else, they can reach out to you and have a conversation and possibly even help you out. So thank you again for showing me. To all our listeners, I want to say Happy Canada Day. And of course, to the States people out there, it's going to be July 4th on Tuesday. So I want to wish you as well a great long weekend. And to everybody, let's stay curious, intentional, and kind. Thanks, Sheila. Okay, I want to thank you for sharing your time with me and supporting this show. If this was damn good, it resonated with you, or sheesh, you just love this episode and would like to support this podcast, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. Follow, tag, and DM me on Instagram at Sunshine and Whiskey if you have a question or maybe you have an idea for the show. Follow me on social media and my online business, Ebb and Flow Consulting. Don't forget to check out any links on the show notes. Until next time, let's stay curious, intentional, and kind.